Hi. Mhm. Francisco, I'm still waiting for the theme music.
I know. I was taking care of ACI one also. Sorry for that. Yeah.
Stop
Next time.
serving, stop
Next
serving,
time.
stop serving others. It's annoying. All right. Good morning, everyone. All right. Please, there's not enough people who have their cameras on. I'm sorry. Thank you. I'd like to see people who I'm teaching to. There you go. So, all right. So we're now in class 3. And today's class is kind of cool because it's a lot of there's a little bit more information and there's a discussion that leaves a lot to meditate on, I think. And the main discussion goes into, all right, so this is kind of a cool thing. You decide to make these commitments. You decide to take vows, whether you've taken the layperson's vows, you take refuge, or you take bodhisattva vows, or you take, Vajrayana vows, right, wherever you are. Like you take the vows, and then a question pops up in people's minds. And the question is, where do the vows stay? Okay. It seems like a kind of a weird question to ask, but it's like, okay, you got something. You got vows, right? Someone gives them to you, right? So then the question gets asked, like, well, where do they stay? How do you keep them? Like, how do they stay with you? That's a better way of saying it, right? It's like if someone gives you a cup of espresso, right? And I give a cup of espresso to Flavia. Flavia has mate, right? Have a look at Flavia. Okay. I give Flavia a mate or a French version of mate, which would be espresso, right? And like how does she get to does she keep it, right? It seems like I hand it to her and then she gets to keep it, right? So she has the espresso, she has the mate, right? Now she has it. Like you get vows from a monastic preceptor, or you get vows from your teacher, or however, there's different ways of getting vows. Okay. Someone gives them to you. So, but how do you get to keep them? Do you wear them like a shirt? You wear them like a nice button-down shirt, getting ready for, fancy class? Like, do you get to do you wear them like a cloak, like a big coat? You know, well, only 73 cups for a 500-page book isn't too bad. So, I don't know. So the question really is, how do you get to keep them? And so this is we're going to investigate that today. And we're going to investigate it in all the different schools. Like, you know, how does each school see that, a school of Buddhism? And then you got to meditate on it. Um, Note to self, or note to yourself, be careful when you're listening to Dharma when you're driving, because sometimes you might have realizations and then you're driving and you're like, oh shit, you're driving down the highway. So I would just be careful. Um, I didn't run the car off the road, but I had a cool insight. So let's dive into the class right now. Okay, so we're switching text again. So we sometimes each class we switch text, and we're going to be going into uh, Jason Kappa's text, "The Essence of the Ocean of Discipline," and It opens up with a kind of a mantra. And it's more of a wish, but it might be a mantra. So let's have a look at this. Oh, sorry, that's my review that I didn't do. There it is. He says, Om de Girchik. Repeat after me. Okay, turn on your microphones. This will be fun. Okay, ready? Repeat after me. Om.
Om. Om.
Nice. Okay. Delik.
Leg.
Su
Su.
Girchik.
Your cheek.
Om Delek.
Om.
Su Girchik.
Your
Nice. Good job. Okay. Well, that didn't sound as bad as I thought it was going. Okay. Bless you. Turn off your microphones now. All right. Can you guys still see the screen? Is it black or can you still see the mantra? Mantra, yes? Okay, cool. All right. So there's just too many things on my screen. So what does it mean? And I think it's important for us to understand what it means, and then you can decide if it's a mantra or not. So Om, right? Most nice things in mantras or in Buddhism open up with the word Om. And they can mean different things at different times. In this case, what it's referring to are the three are the three that the holy beings have, that the Buddhas have, that the enlightened beings have. And we would call it like enlightened body, enlightened enlightened body, enlightened speech, and enlightened mind. Like all three of them together. So you're basically celebrating in some way or recognizing these three main qualities that a Buddha has. And there's other ways we can look at it, and oftentimes you'll hear just the Om Ah Hung. You probably have heard that before as a mantra, and that also represents the body, speech, and mind of an enlightened being. Or Om Ah Hung, each one, like enlightened body would be Om, enlightened speech would be and enlightened mind would be Hung. So, and you can hear these like this, a really nice way to do a quick blessing at your at breakfast, or if you're blessing your drink or anything, you're just offering Oma Hung. You're making that offering out to and recognizing that it's possible to have enlightened body, enlightened speech, and enlightened mind. Right. So for example, Anastasia, you look like you're at a coffee shop, so you can take your coffee, right? And you can just be like, boop, Oma Hung, if you'd like. So that's the first part. Om, right? What's the shortest sutra in the Kangir? It's not Om, by the way. Nope, I tricked you guys.
Lakso.
No, the shortest one is Ah. There's one word, Ah. Okay, so anyway, that was just a complete random aside. All right, the second word here is day, which, just going back to the Om, like, not only are you recognizing the holy body, speech, and mind of a Buddha, you're also calling them. You're also inviting. You're saying, hello, hey, like, knock, knock, hey, Buddha, hey, you know, I mean, you could be more polite about it. Like, I'm, however you want to speak to the Buddhas, right? Just being like, "Hey, Buddha," can also be polite too. But you're inviting. You're saying, "Hey, come to my house. Come on over. My door is open." And the day means happiness, like Delam, the path, the quick path, or the path to bliss, which is a lamrim by the first Panchen Lama, which also happens to be the first 3 courses of the Tantra series. Delam. Before you get anywhere, you can kind of take those courses um, without initiation, maybe. So you need special permission. So that means happiness. So what it means is we're actually talking about the happiness of that happens in a human or pleasure realm being. We're not talking about ultimate happiness. We're talking about temporary happiness. Yo, who's writing on? Oh, Violet, you're such a great artist. um, I'm just joking. And then the leg means goodness. Where do we hear? Where else do you hear the word leg? I know Roxana knows, but she's interpreting, so she can't jump out and say the answer. Where else do we see that? Where do you see the word leg? Like so, like so. The Heart Sutra, right? What's the special feature of the Heart Sutra and those words like so, like so? Just random information that you might be useful in the future. Did the Buddha speak directly the Heart Sutra? Whoa, who just killed my screen share? The Buddha didn't speak the Heart Sutra. Right? The Buddha only spoke 2 words, 4 words. Well, depending on what language, right? Only spoke like so, like so. Okay. But he spoke through um, Shariputra, and there's the whole story around that. All right. Great. That's right. Great, great. Good job. Like when the Buddha's happy. Good job. Like, I can just imagine the Buddha being like, yeah. Like it just, yeah, that was nice. Right. And everyone goes, oh, hey, Buddha spoke. You know, when your teacher speaks to you and you're like, oh my God, he said hi. It's kind of like that in the Heart Sutra. Everyone's like, oh, the Buddha spoke. All they said was, good job, good job. So this mantra, Om Delek Gyurchik, or bendition, maybe, or it's basically saying in Tim language is right. May all beings have happiness in the worldly life, and may they all have the final happiness of nirvana and Buddhahood. And may all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas show up and help us do that. So that the Lexo means the goodness, the highest goodness of nirvana and Buddhahood. So Om, Buddha has come in the body, speech, and mind. Om, Buddha has come. May all beings have happiness now in their samsaric world, and then may they achieve the highest happiness of nirvana and Buddhahood. Roxana, you got to speak faster. So, no, thanks for letting me know I'm speaking too fast. All right. So, Om Delek Sugyurchik. So think about that one. Like I've always wondered like why are we paying attention to the opening lines of this book? And maybe you should meditate on that. So we've talked about, what we're really talking about here are the individual freedom vows. And the prakti moksha, like what does it mean? Like when we say individual freedom, what do we mean? What do we mean by individual freedom vows? Whether you're taking layperson's vows or you're taking bodhisattva vows or any other vows, right? But we're talking specifically about the foundation, right? Because we talked that the foundation is what allows everything to grow, everything to be supported. And we said, if you don't have the foundation, nothing else works. So we start with the vows of individual freedom. And those vows of individual freedom are part of the lower scope. And this is part of Lamrim. There's three types of practitioners. There's three paths that we share together. And so the lower scope, and lower is it's kind of a bad word to use because lower sounds lesser or lower sounds like it's not good enough or something like that. If the vows can take you to nirvana, just the freedom vows, that sounds pretty cool, right? Does that sound like something low to anyone? And I think that's the trick for us is to understand that lower doesn't necessarily mean worse or lesser. Okay. Hold on one second, guys. I'm going to switch networks here and see if I can get a better connection. Give me a hot second. Let's see. Nope, that's actually worse. That's worse than the other one. All right. I'm sorry. We're having internet connections problems in Sedona. Hold on. All right, cool. I think you guys are back. You're starting to blink a little bit, maybe. Can you guys hear me? Can they just, I might not be moving, but you can hear me? Okay, well then we'll keep going. Cool. All right, so why do we call these the vows of individual freedom? So what we mean is that if you follow them, you have the, wait, let me make sure I have this right. Right, okay. Is that they're called the individual vows of freedom because those people, those individuals who keep them reach freedom. And what does it mean by freedom? Is that you get out of the cycle of suffering, that you can reach nirvana. And those that don't keep them don't. Get it? Super simple, right? If you keep them, you can reach nirvana. And if you don't, you don't. Yay, that's so easy. It sounds so dumbly obvious. It's a lot harder to keep them than it sounds, but it's a lot harder to reach nirvana than it sounds. And that's what they mean is they can take you on the lower scope. They can take you to nirvana, to someone who has removed the cycle of suffering for themselves. That's what we mean. Only for themselves. Francisco, I love this hoodie you're wearing. It almost is like you're like coming out as a Jedi or something. It's probably cold, but it looks like you could be a Jedi. Um, so let's see, where are we? I have a picture for you. I don't know if it may or may not be helpful for you, but it's basically the freedom from the chains of suffering. Like you're letting them go. You're letting go of those chains. So when you're keeping the Praktimoksha commitments, you're unraveling the chains of the samsaric life. And, you know, it's one of those things that it's kind of hard to see at first sometimes, where it's like, don't do this, don't do that, don't do that, behave like this, do this, all of those things have a certain, this seems like rules, it seems like regulations, it seems like I'm not going to be able to live a life of freedom because you're restricting my freedom by telling me what to do. Dang it. Right? You're telling me what to do. So, well, hello there. Hi. You can come in and do what you need to do. Yes. I have a class before we have class here. Yeah, I know. Sorry. So and it's not that. It's not like a parent telling a child, but it kind of is like a parent telling a child what to do and what not to do, right? Like the Buddha said, yo, like you can't see the subtle workings of karma, sorry. So I'm going to let you know what some of those things are that are going to help you get out of the chain of suffering, the cycle, the chains of suffering. And you could stay in them if you want. I mean, I welcome all of you begrudgingly to stay. You could stay, right? You could stay there if you want. But um, but if you have a certain level of, and we just call it general renunciation, like if you're finally tired with this cycle, like like everything that starts has to end. Like for those of you who are still dating and trying to meet your partner, like how many people do you have to date to make it work? Like it starts, right? And then it's like, oh, sorry, don't like you anymore. Bye. What? You know, like, well, that sucked. That felt good for a while. And then they were like, nope, don't like you anymore. It's not you, it's me. Hi, Sarah. It's not you, it's me. Oh, okay. And then you're like, well, if it's not Like, what is it about me that didn't make it work for you? Great, get it? Like, oh, I don't want you to feel bad about yourself. It's all me. Like, come on. So I think it's you eventually get tired of it, and the individual freedom vows become the foundation to untire yourself, I guess is a way of talking about it. Untire yourself of the suffering life. Okay. So what I was trying to say here is that eventually you get to a place where, and if you're here, you're probably already there, is the suffering, the cycle of suffering, which you see enough of, you just get tired of it. I just get tired of the same thing happening over and over again. And if that's what all life is, then what's the point? You know, in, someone said, I think it was Einstein, I don't know. They attributed the quote to a lot of people. But the idea is that the definition of insanity is when you keep doing the same thing and expecting a different result. Okay, just keep going out on dates and see if you can meet a partner. And it doesn't work. Okay, well, okay, so the first thing you do when they break up with you is you go on Tinder and you're like, let's go meet somebody else. Right? Then it happens again. So, what is the thing that's happening again and again, right? And you're like, well, maybe there's a different way to do this. Oh, maybe I should go on a different site. Maybe I should go on eHarmony, or I should go on the one for executives where you have to pay $300 a month to only meet other executives, because that's going to work, right? Sorry, translators. Flavia's trying to translate and she's just she can't take me seriously right now. Right? Like those things work. So sarcastically, so you get to a place where like you look at the world and you're thinking, well, there has to be a different way. There has to be a different way. And then that's what renunciation is. Like you give up the old way of doing things. You know, some people might say a life of renunciation is putting on monk's robes or nun's robes and leaving the home life. And that's one form of renunciation. But the general form of renunciation is just you're just fed up with the old way of doing things. I'm fed up with the old emotional reactions I have to the same thing over and over again. It's not you, it's me. Okay, then I take it personally, and then I'm doing the same thing over and over again, right? I'm tired of my emotional states that are the same reactions to the same things. Like, there's a problem here. So, when you finally reach that and you say, no, there's something different to do. And okay, folks, let's go on a different tangent because I'm going to do it. Renunciation typically is not like a full life, like renunciation, where like all of a sudden the clouds open up and then your whole life has just become renunciated. That's not how it works, at least in my experience. Like I get renunciation for things, like specific things. And then I'm like, oh, well, I have the tools for that. I can plant seeds for that. And then the next thing happens. And I'm like, oh, I've been doing that unconsciously for my entire life. Shit. Okay. Let's apply wisdom to that. Good. Now I'm a wise person. Right? I'm wise now. And then I'm like, dang it. That thing over there, I'm not able to apply wisdom to. Shit. Okay, let's go. So renunciation becomes a path, right? It becomes a path of opening and revealing. So then it becomes a constant like, oh shit, oh shit, okay, all right. And then you cycle back and then you realize, well, did I really apply wisdom to that other thing? Right? So it becomes renunciation is a practice. It's a practice of getting tired of the old way and then bringing the new way in. Okay, so don't think of it as, it can be a sudden, like when do people feel renunciation? Usually when somebody dies or when somebody has a breakup or something, you get really sick or something awful, tragedy. Okay, that's when renunciation shows up. But it's kind of a short-lived renunciation oftentimes, because after 2 weeks you get used to the person being dead and then you kind of just start moving on with your life, or a month or however long it takes to grieve, and then you move on, and then you just forget about it, sometimes because the pain is too much, and that's okay. But we go through these periods and we have to use those periods to fuel our practice. Okay, this is not an ACI 9 course, this is just Tim's personal advices. Okay, this is how you fuel your course. Rosalia, your dog is so cute. Ow. You see, that was kind of cool. So the renunciation becomes the foundation. Every time something doesn't work, it means that something's wrong with your worldview. I'll say it again. Every time something doesn't work, there's something wrong with your worldview. I'll repeat it a third time. Every time something doesn't work, there's a problem with how you see the world. Okay. So the renunciation becomes the fuel. It becomes the, what picture did I choose for that? Oh, yeah, here's my picture of renunciation. Today's picture of renunciation brought to you by Tim. Okay. Right? Look, all the boxes everywhere. This guy is just fed up. He is just can't handle it anymore, right? So the idea is then, because of this attitude of renunciation, by the way, this is homework question 4, if anyone cares. This attitude of renunciation then becomes like, I'm going to stop hurting others. You're going to turn away from hurting others. Okay. You're going to stop hurting others. And then there's this other cool thing, a part of this, like how Jason Kappa describes the vows of individual freedom. So based on, caused by renunciation, right? I am tired. I'm going to stop hurting others. I'm going to turn away from hurting others. And its basis. And you're like, what? What's its basis mean, Jason Kappa? And Jason Kappa is like, doesn't say. Just turn away from its basis. All right. So I have this little house here on sticks, right? This house is on sticks, so it doesn't get washed away when the floods come, right? So it's this foundation, right? This is another kind of foundation, a basis. So we're turning away from, what are we turning away from? That's what I want to ask the question of. What are we turning away from? So we're turning away from the 7 primary bad deeds. Okay. Primary, because there's lots of them. There's like 84,000 bad deeds. Yay. Isn't that exciting? There's 84 different bad things that you can do. And then the Buddha was like, well, it's kind of hard to know what all 84,000 are. So why don't we summarize them into 7? Actually 10, but 7. 7 things you do with your speech and your body. All right, those 7 things. No killing, no stealing, no sexual misconduct, no lying. Okay, that's 4. No harsh speech, no meaningless speech. And what's the 7th?
No decisive talk.
What's that?
Not splitting. No decisive talk.
Divisive talk, speech.
Yeah, device.
Yeah, speech that gossiping, telling people, like dividing people up. Right? Those 7 things. Okay. So you're turning away from those 7 things. By the way, that's like pretty much everything you do all day long. Okay. Now, the basis, what does it mean by the basis? What does it mean by this foundation? The foundation is the 3 negative emotions that motivate those 7 behaviors. And those 3 negative thoughts that run around in our head are, 1, being upset when people get what they want. The second one is being happy when people get what they don't want. So basically, like I use the example of, I remember in college, it was snowing outside. We were walking to class. It was early in the morning. And across the street, this this person was walking, and they did the cartoon thing. They were walking on the ice. They slipped. Their legs went up in the air. They froze in midair. And then bam, they came down on their butt. Okay. And me, being such a kind and compassionate person, pointed and laughed at them from across the street. I was like, it was so funny. I mean, the person was really hurt. I mean, it hurt, right? But here I am laughing at a person who's suffering, right? How much do we enjoy other people's suffering? That's the point. We enjoy in some sick way other people's suffering. And then we get jealous when other people have good things. We get upset when other people have good things. Oh, look at that beautiful partner. Oh my God, they're so cute. Look at them hold hands, right? Like, oh, they're so cute. I think I just threw up in my mouth a little bit, right? So those are 2. And then the third basis is just ignorance itself, not understanding where the pen comes from, not understanding where anything comes from, for that matter. So those 3 things, not understanding where the pen comes from, where things come from, being happy at other people's suffering, and then being jealous when people get what they actually want, those 3 become the basis for those other 7. Right? So if you have any one of those 3, you probably will then say or do something in the outer world based on those 3. And you can spend a whole life meditating on just that point. What are the things that you do that are motivated by either being happy when people suffer, or being unhappy when people are not suffering, or some kind of just general ignorance? Okay. So Jason Kappa is saying an attitude of renunciation will become the foundation, the cause for you to turn away from harming others, which are those 7, right? Because those hurt other people. And you turn away from the internal mental motivation that inspires those actions. Yay. Doesn't that sound like a fun practice? All right. Okay. We'll do that later. Okay. We're going to skip forward here. Okay. So what I want to get to today is, what are the different ways that different people or different groups of Buddhist thinkers describe where vows are kept? You take the vows, just like I gave this espresso, this French espresso, to Flavia, and then Flavia has it. Right? So Flavia has that, and so therefore she's now has a cup, an espresso. Like when you get your vows from your vow master, how did you get them? Right? Like you got them, they gave them to you, yay. They snapped their fingers, they did a whole ceremony. It was beautiful. You cried. I cried. I cry when I give vows. It's beautiful. But where do they stay? Where do they stay? Okay. So here we go. There's 4 different schools of Buddhist. And I made a nice chart for you. I'm sorry if you don't read English. Your translators will translate. So the first school is called the detailist, Abhidharma. Okay. I wasn't going to go through this, but I think it's helpful. Second school is called the sutrist, the Sautrantika. Okay. Don't worry if you don't know what they mean. Don't worry about it. Eventually it'll become second nature to you. Third one is the mind only school, the Chittamatra. The fourth school is the middle way, Madhyamika. And the fourth school has 2 schools, has 2 branches. The first one is the independent, the Swatantrika. And then it has the consequent school, the Prasangika, which is a way of using kind of sarcastic logic to get you to understand something. And we're going to keep going through these things in the subsequent courses. So don't worry if you don't understand them today, but just know that these are 4, 5, depending how you want to call it. There's 4 schools. One has 2 parts. Different ways of thinking about the world. Abhidharma, the detailist, is the lowest form. This is when the Buddha taught the 4 Arya truths, the 5 heaps, 6 heaps, 5 heaps, the heaps, shit. All the different categories, the 18 categories, the 5 heaps, all this stuff, okay? And then the Prasangika is the highest, right? Is the highest school. So don't think that you're above any of these, because really, when you look at these are, don't think of these as schools that exist outside of you. Think of these as different ways in which your mind thinks at different times. And it becomes really, really helpful to think this way. Because once you understand the 5 schools or four schools with fourth with 2 parts, the 5 different perspectives, then you can really catch your mind and understand where you are. Like, where's my mind today? And then subsequently, as a teacher, when someone is coming with an issue or a question, you can understand where that student's mind is today. Are they in an Abhidharma setting? Are they in a sutra setting? Are they in a mind-only setting, for example? So it allows you, once you clear up and understand the various aspects of the schools and the various ways they understand emptiness, then when you're listening to people and listening mainly to yourself, then you can see what your understanding of emptiness is right now. How good is my understanding of emptiness? How much am I whining about my problems to myself? Oh, I feel terrible about myself today. I can't believe that happened. Wah, 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 right? And I'm saying it facetiously because I do it all the time. So then you can say, oh, wow, good, Tim. Your your understanding of emptiness is not even in these 4 right now. Your understanding of emptiness is outside of this, meaning there's no understanding. Right? It's not even in Buddhism. You're just in your cycle of Timness, right? So what I want to do here quickly is understand, what does each of these groups, where do they think the vows stay? Okay. So these 3 groups kind of believe the same thing. And they're a little bit different, and to understand the differences is powerful. But generally speaking, have you guys noticed that like when I just, every time I say generally or mainly, it allows for all the little details, so you can't destroy me in a debate. It's like, oh no, I just said mainly it's this way. All right. It's how you get out of most things that you don't know. So the 3 things here is mainly the general idea between these 3 schools is that the way you get the vows are held by you by a continued, like an intention to give up those bad deeds. I intend not to kill. I intend not to steal. I intend to respect everyone else's relationships. Okay. And then it also means I intend to do this alongside the mental seed for that intention. Okay, so generally those 3 mean that. And it sounds pretty reasonable, frankly. Right? The intention to do it, and then the seed. Great. Like, I have the intention, I have the mental seed that's opening up as the intention. Beautiful. Right? So then these other 2 places, the first and the last school, believe that it's actually physical in some way. But they believe it's physical in a very, very different way. And this is what we're going to have to meditate on. Okay. So just so you guys know, we're going to end class early today in about 5 minutes. Why? And here's the teaching. I'm ending class early today because my teacher is teaching at 7 o'clock. And it's an honoring of your teacher to not teach at the same time that they're teaching. You're honoring them. So we're ending class early, and we will make it, don't worry, we'll make up all the material, I promise. But my teacher is teaching in 10 minutes. So we're going to finish in 5. You get to go home early, which the students always like for some reason. And then we'll finish up the class next time. And I'm going to leave you with this, and then I want you to think about it. Okay. So the lower school, the Abhidharmas, the Abhidharma detailists, they believe that it's physical matter. You get the vows, and I found this cool picture, right? And it becomes like a halo around you. Invisible, ineffable, nobody can see it. But it just hangs out around you. Okay. That you carry it with you. Doesn't have weight, it doesn't have when you step on the scale, it doesn't disappear. It doesn't like give you, I got vows and oh look, I'm a kilo more. Like shit, my pants aren't gonna fit. No, it's not like that. Um, but it's like they say it's like a halo, like a just an energy field, an aura that you have. I have vows. You can't see it, you can't touch it, can't really feel it, I guess. Right? That's what the Abhidharmas say. Now, what does the Majjhimika say? Now, this is something to really meditate on. Okay. And it's hard, and you have to think about it. And they say that it's a gateway of the Dharma. So here's a gate, right? And you can't get to what's on the other side without it. And they say that it's the form, the physical form of the vows in the Prasangika viewpoint is that it's the form, the physical form of it is the object of your mental consciousness. Okay. What does that mean? It's the object of your mental consciousness. So think of it as, and this is where I almost drove off the road. This is what I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. I hadn't, after 13 years, if you don't understand it today, don't worry. Okay, I took ACI 12 years ago or something. Okay. Just chill with it. But it's a conceptualization. It's a physical conceptualization existing as objects outside of your mind. It's kind of like a form. Okay, so it's hard to say where they are, but it's like a picture in your mind. So think of the vows as a conceptualization of seeing yourself not do something. Are you killing somebody right now? I hope not. I seriously hope not. So you are seeing yourself right now not killing. You're not even necessarily thinking about it. You're conceptualizing yourself as not killing. It's an absence. You're conceptualizing an absence right now, and it's real. You're not killing. You're conceptualizing an absence of not stealing. And that's what the vows are in the highest school. You're conceptualizing yourself not doing something, which is a conceptualization of yourself doing something, and thinking of it as a gateway. You're conceptualizing the perfection, you're conceptualizing the perfectionizing of your world into a paradise. Okay. If that's too much, just be an Abhidharmist and wear a halo. Okay. If that's too much, just imagine it's your intention and the seed to keep the vows. Okay. Maybe it's all true. Okay. So I'm going to leave you with that. I'd like you guys to meditate on that. Meditate on those 4 things. Okay, you're going to get this in your platform. Oops, where is my? There it is. Right. Meditate on this. Okay. Meditate on these differences. How do you get the vowels and how do you keep them? Okay. So I got to go. And happy Saturday. Very happy that you all joined. Thank you, translators. Thank you, tech people. Thank you for all of your hard work. I very, very much appreciate it. And I will see you guys on, I think, Tuesday. No, Monday. The class is Monday morning. We had to change that too. So Monday morning at 6. We'll see you then. So turn on your microphones and say goodbye and have a great weekend.
Bye. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
Besitos, sábado.
谢谢翻译。
Gracias. Muchas gracias, Tim.
Chao,
Bye
team. Please
bye.
stay.
Thank you so much. Muchas
Gracias.
gracias.
Thank
Feliz fin de semana. Feliz fin de semana.
Bye-bye.
Good night. Morning. Good night.
Good morning, good night. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.